Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Your Tech.
Ask your tech.
Tech, tech, tech.
All right.
So today we thought we'd talk about back it up.
back it up.
Yep,
Yep, we gotta back it up.
that service got back, right?
Yep. I was
Okay.
just I was just thinking about my machine. I need to set up backups.
Yep.
Uh, I have been doing, and this is a no-no. It's a big no-no. I've just been doing it occasionally, like every few months, to an external hard drive. And that's a good backup scheme because it's better than nothing, but it's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to set up backups on my system here.
Yep. So best practices for backup. So there's this thing called the 3-2-1 rule, right?
Hmm.
So it basically means have three copies, two local and one remote.
Hmm.
Um, we actually do like a 3-1-2 usually when we set it up.
Hmm.
Um, there's varying thoughts on that, but we do three copies, one local and two remote in two separate locations.
Yep.
So what you want to do when you're doing a backup is you want to make sure that you set something up and you have like a local storage location where you can put your backups to,
Hmm.
and then you have something else that backs up either those backups somewhere else or does a separate backup to an off-site location. And the reason that you want to have an off-site is because what happens if your building burns down, or you can't access your building, or
Hmm.
you know some kind of something doesn't let you into the building, right? That way you have those off-site backups and you can put them up wherever you want. And usually, like a good solution, like something that we use, will allow you to do those virtually, so that you can bring things up a lot faster and
Yep.
also, temporarily, and then you can migrate them to something else that'll bring them up, more in a more permanent structure.
Right. Exactly. Which is it's ultimately it is one of the many steps that you need to have set up in a disaster recovery plan.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have backups, recovery is going to be a nightmare.
Yep. And another thing with that we, another reason that we like to do one local and two off-site is because of ransomware, right? The reason that we do that is because those systems are remote. They don't have access by the local systems to them,
Hmm.
so they can't get compromised as easily.
Right.
I mean, there's always a way, but this is like one of those. It only comes and talks to you, not you to it.
Right.
So it
Which,
says, "Hey, give me all your stuff," and it backs it up. Now, to counteract a lot of ransomware stuff, you want to do more frequent backups,
hmm
and then you also want to keep sometimes a little bit longer. Um, the reason being that sometimes ransomware and things like that will sit dormant in your systems for months on end.
mm,
So you want to have a good plan that allows you to keep local, or I mean, short-term and long-term backups.
right.
And you want to do things called file backups and image backups. So file backups are when somebody changes a file, that's the part that gets backed up, and then those files are easily accessible for quick restores and things like that. Image backups are where it takes a copy of your entire system, your server, your laptop, whatever, and copies that into an image or a backup and says, okay, this is the whole thing, and I've got that backed up. And then it can also do those little, where something changes, it updates that image.
Right.
So you want to do that as often as possible, in my opinion. So usually
Oh,
what we do is we have it run throughout the day and just do small incremental backups and
mhm.
keep things going and keep things as current as possible. So even if it's not a ransomware, if it's something like where hardware or a drive dies or something, you have within a couple of hours at the most usually a
Right.
backup, a complete backup that you can restore from.
Yep. Exactly.
And you can get as complex as you want with these things, or you can get as simple as you want.
Hmm.
Like for us, keeping it simple, the KISS principle, right? We
Yeah.
do something where it like backs up to the local device, same way that we were just talking about, like images slash files, and then remotely images slash files, and then images slash files to the other remote location.
Right.
And that way we have those disparate locations that allow us to restore in confidence when something bad happens.
Exactly. And even if it's something not that bad happens, like a file that you were working on became overwritten or corrupted or something,
Mm-hmm.
we can restore things at the file level as well, right?
Yep.
We can just go into those backups and say, hey, this guy right here is the good version of that Excel spreadsheet that everybody uses. Here we go. Let's restore it back, and you can
Yep.
continue to run.
Yep. And another thing you want to do is a lot of people think, okay, the server's backed up, we're secure.
Hmm.
You want to think about your laptop or your desktop too,
Hmm.
because you do a lot of work on your laptop. Most people, including me, put stuff on their local machine or their local laptop or desktop or whatever.
Yep.
Chris was just talking about earlier.
Hmm.
Excuse me. And when you back that, if you don't back that up, that laptop or that desktop goes bad, or you don't have access to it.
Hmm.
Poof, where'd all that data go?
Yeah,
You know,
it's just gone.
it's gone, and you are SOL.
That's right. And you know, every time you run a backup, they are automatic. Backups are automatic. You can get agents installed on all the individual machines and have file level backups, and you know, um, and image level backups that you can recall, that you can write back to those systems and overwrite them
Mm-hmm.
if anything does happen. I just think that that's really cool. Previously, we had a situation where it wasn't here. I experienced this where an email server was compromised, and we needed to access the files or the database essentially to pull all of the old emails and then upload them into an Office 365 tenant that we had moved to after the email server got compromised. And um, it was good to have that virtual server, those virtual images backed up, because we were able to um, extract the virtual hard drive from the backups and then mount it to another system where we could then restore the database in a way that we could pull all of the what are the file names for Office 365 or Office? Uh, it's escaping me all of a sudden. The
PWS files,
files. What's that?
PWS, PW,
Yeah,
OWS, or whatever they are. Yeah,
yeah. The
OW.
OVA or whichever one.
Yeah, whatever one. Yeah.
We were able to upload all of those emails, years upon years of emails. Don't store things in your emails. But we
Did you
were
hear that,
able to
everybody? Don't
store,
store
yes.
things in your emails.
Yeah,
On a file
don't store it in your emails.
system. Excuse me.
But uh, with all those good backups, we were able to restore a lot of
Mm-hmm.
data, information, and a lot of information, sensitive information that was stored in emails,
Yep.
which is a no-no. But
Mm-hmm. It happens.
yes, it happens.
Everybody does it for some reason
Everybody does it. Yeah.
because it's convenience. Now, one thing that
Exactly.
you got to
Exactly.
remember though is
Mhm.
emails aren't backed up
Right.
by default. You may think
Right.
your email is safe, secure, even if you're using O365 or Google or things like that.
Hmm.
Their servers go down, they lose that data. It's not on them. It's part of that license agreement you signed that you are responsible for those backups.
Yeah.
So you need to either have something in place where you're exporting that data into a file somewhere that gets backed
Mhm.
up, or
Yep.
you have a solution put in place that automatically pulls from that and
Right.
backs up to wherever you want it
Exactly.
to. So if
And
you have,
and
but
sorry, go ahead.
you go ahead.
No, I was being rude.
No, fine.
Well, I would say for things that are important tribal knowledge, you want to have a knowledge base. You want to have a SharePoint. You want to have something that everybody can access or that only you can access.
Mm-hmm.
But something that you keep that important data encrypted, password protected, and quickly available. And one of the reasons that most people really like to keep all of those emails is because they like the indexability of it, the searchability. And that's something that SharePoint definitely does have. So,
Yep.
mhm,
Now, one thing that I've noticed, like with data, like databases and things like that, applications that have databases, it's
mhm,
not necessary to keep like 7 years worth of backups on those.
mhm,
Think about it. The reason that you don't want to is because 7 years ago, data doesn't have new stuff.
mhm,
And also, whatever you've deleted out of that, it's going to be a full copy. The most recent backup is the full copy. And that's the
mhm.
one you're going to want to use. Yes,
Right.
you can have, you know, older backups just in case. But you
Mhm.
want to try to keep the current one, especially if you're going to have to access that data from somewhere else. You want to keep that separate when you're backing out. So you back up that database separately so that you can access it from another, like you was talking about with the
Mhm.
Exchange stuff. That's
Mhm.
database. But
Yep.
other things like SQL, things that use SQL or those kinds of databases, you want to have that separated out in a different type of backup as well, so that it doesn't get lost in there when you have to access the data.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need to access the data outside of GDPR, where they say, hey, they have the right to delete their data from your record. You may have to go to that backup and delete it, right? And it's harder to do that when it's an image or something like that than when it's a separate database or
Right.
HIPAA things, things like that, where you have to be confidential and things like that. By keeping a more current set, you're not as you have that 7 years worth of data in that database already. You don't have to keep so many copies of
Right.
it. And the database itself is usually not the thing that gets corrupted by like ransomware and stuff like that. It just gets encrypted so you can't access it. So by
Right.
having an offline storage of it somewhere else, then you have that database. And that to me is more critical than anything, having the data secure.
Oh
Because you
yeah.
can always rebuild those servers and things like that. It may take you a
Mhm.
little longer. But as
Yeah.
long as you have the data that's with them, then you have at least a starting point for recovery.
That's right. That's right. And you can always just print it out into punch cards, so you can
Yeah.
have a hard copy.
And Chris will sit there with every punch card and make sure that they aren't shuffled incorrectly.
Yep. Could you imagine?
Yeah. I used to use those like when I was really little. My friend's dad uh, did stuff like that, so they had punch cards all over the basement, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, we used to play with those all the time and build things out of them, or just like take them and use them to like fill in little holes, draw with them, and then pull it off, and you go, oh, there's the ones.
That's funny. Well, were you corrupting like programs every time you did that? Like,
No, because they were old ones that they didn't use
okay,
anymore.
okay.
But that would have been hilarious, right?
He comes down into his basement. My backups. What did you do? That's funny
Yep.
to some people.
Yeah, for some people. For those that actually happened to.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Well,
So, anything else you can think of about backups and fun things like that?
I think the only thing that I think about with backups is, like I said earlier, is that backups are a big, very important part to your entire disaster recovery plan. I mean, if
Perfect
you
segue into
always
what I
have
wanted
to.
to go over next.
What's that?
Perfect segue into what I kind of wanted to go over real quick next.
Yeah,
Disaster recovery.
yeah, disaster recovery, like business continuity, right?
Yep,
Like
emergency
if
mode operations plan,
exactly,
so on and so forth.
yeah,
So, I mean, we know what a disaster recovery plan is, right?
hmm,
But a lot of people don't understand the complexities involved with it or everything that you need to do.
oh
So, a
yeah,
good disaster recovery plan has social parts where you have calling trees, you have people that you talk to and inform them of what's going on,
mm-hmm,
automated things that tell, hey, something bad's happening. They
hmm,
have backups, which are the parts that allow you to recover. They have
hmm,
plans in place to go, okay, what happens? How do we keep operating when something goes bad? So your
yep,
emergency mode operations. Those kinds of things all have to work together. And then on top of that, you have testing. And
Mm-hmm.
testing takes usually a couple of parts. So you test by reading through your plans and
Mm-hmm.
looking at them and going, okay, we need to make improvements here because this doesn't look like it works. You
Exactly.
test your calling trees and notifications. That's one form of testing. And then you can
Mm-hmm.
improve your plan again. Your plan is your disaster recovery plan is kind of like a living document that you just keep going through.
Yep.
Then you have tabletop tests, which are kind of like taking that whole plan and going, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. And then everybody goes, well, that ain't going to work, or that will
Mm-hmm.
work, or whatever. And then you can update your plan.
Right.
Then you have actual testing of the plan, like where you do physical tests, and you take, sometimes you can do things like in pieces. So you can take email, for example, and say, hey, I need to recover email and test that out.
Mm-hmm.
Or I need to recover this, business business sensitive database that we
Right.
access, like an ERP or a CRM or something like that. You have to
Mm-hmm.
test each individual system. And you want to do that at least once a year for each system, and if you can, once a year for the entire plan.
Right.
And test it out. Like testing your backup internet,
Mm-hmm.
testing your backup data center location,
Yep.
or testing moving it to virtual so that it works. A
Yep.
lot of things are going to be dependent upon you doing that testing. And then when you do that testing, you're building in that, oh, yeah, everybody knows their job when it happens. Even though you have it written down,
Mm-hmm.
people don't necessarily understand how that works. So when
Right.
you have that framework set up, that plan, you have all that information in place, then you have a comprehensive plan and you understand what you're going to do. Then you can also identify other risks too that you might have. So you can say, hey, this might happen. Oh, we didn't address that. Let's figure out what we can do to mitigate that, or address it so that we don't have an issue, or we just accept it.
Right.
And then on top of that, a lot of cybersecurity policies and business policies, insurance policies nowadays are going to start requiring that you do these kinds of things. There's
Mm-hmm.
also compliance pieces that require you to do these kinds of things: PCI, GDPR, HIPAA, uh, SOX, SEC regulations, so on and so forth. All those kinds of things require that you do that.
Yeah.
That's part of it, so that you have that in place, so you can recover that and you don't lose people's private data, and
Mm-hmm.
you're covering yourself. It's a best practice
Mm-hmm.
that's backed up a lot of times by regulation.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely it's one of those things in life that you just have to do. Nobody wants to do
No,
it.
nobody wants to do it. Yeah,
Nobody wants to do a disaster recovery meeting for, however long it takes to hammer out the details. But it's definitely one of those things
but
where,
I do,
well, yeah, I
because
we do, but I mean we're the
I really
exceptions to the
enjoy
rules,
doing that
right?
stuff. I
but and we like to make sure that people are taken care of
mhm.
and that they can recover from disaster.
Yep,
That their business is their business continuity. Our business continuity is their business continuity.
yep. So
So,
we test and plan and so on and so forth to make sure that things go right for us, so that they go right for the customers.
yep,
Yep. I know I've been
exactly.
doing disaster recovery stuff, for over 20 plus years. So it's something that's ingrained, and it's something that I actually do really enjoy doing, and planning and figuring it out and testing it and playing with it, because it's like,
Yeah,
oh, cool. You get to play with technology, and you get to play with the human elements, and you get to play with all of that, and how
yeah,
you can make it fun too. It doesn't have to be boring.
yeah. Well, that's a good idea. I wonder if there's a way that you could gamify disaster recovery meetings. Like,
Yeah. Well, they gamified hacking. Remember, there used to be games that were hacking,
yeah,
where you could hack
oh,
into
yeah,
something in a game. So why
yep,
not? Yeah, you gamify the dang thing, and hey,
yeah,
at the end you get a dinner or something.
yeah. That would be well, and that's what we like.
Mm-hmm.
Us people, donuts. You
Yeah,
win a donut.
food
There
is a
you go.
great motivator.
It is, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
But
cool. So, is there anything else you wanted to discuss today?
no, I that's about it.
All right, we can
Um,
run short today, so that's cool by me.
okay.
Nobody joined them, so no
It's,
questions from anyone.
yeah, it's Friday.
It is Friday.
It's Good
It,
Friday,
it's Good Friday, yes.
which I think, I understand, why it's Good Friday, but I think all Fridays are good.
Okay, Smiley.
couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. I apologize. I like making dad jokes.
Knee slapper, but I'd probably shoot myself with the pain after hurting me.
Oh yeah. That's bad news. You got to put ice on it.
Yep. All fun and games until you bust your knee.
Yep. Just taking a knee for a moment and it pops.
Yeah.
That's no fun. Yeah, that's about it.
Right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic day and enjoy your Easter weekend. And if you're watching this on the other time, enjoy your day.
Yeah.